We're going to go live at 5, at 10 till 5 in the car. That was quite the task, I'll tell you that. They never really... Actually, they're usually pretty good about it. The boys were fine about it. I guess the little one gave me a little bit of a hard time. Maybe he's just not as used to it, but really it was just Daisy. She gave me a heck of a time. I thought I was going to pass out, so still pretty low energy. Yeah, kind of weird. It's almost like, the severe low energy part of the first COVID. Maybe it's another kind of COVID floating around or something. I don't know. Been like 4 or 5 days now, so. But that might be something else with my health lately too, so who knows. Anyway, today on Live at 5, like I said, in that post earlier in the week, we're going to look at, I want to say it was Galatians chapter 7. Was it Galatians 7? Anyway, talking about the Star of Rembrandt, and man, I could have waited till I got home, I guess, but I just figured I'd start it because these drive and talk reels are kind of cool. So I thought I'd just start out with one of those, and then we'll head home and just do the Live at 5, just go right into it. So, but really the long and short of it was just, if you go and look at that, I want to say it's Galatians chapter 7, verse 43. And it came up somehow this week, but and again, we want to stay focused on Minnesota, and this is a national topic with the war and Israel and everything. But it just shows to me, when I read that, I see the alliance between the Masons and the Jews, that are not even real Jews, the synagogue of Satan, whose flag is the Star of Rembrandt, which is, in fact, the Israeli flag. I mean, if you look it up, that's like straight out of the Bible. So I thought that was pretty interesting. There's lots of stuff in the Bible too, but it just shows you that you don't want to be a part of that allegiance. And now look where it's led us. So now we're a country that participated in genocide, and that was something we were so totally against. That was part of our ethos, our character, who we were, at least in my mind, certainly. I don't even know how they can still talk about the Holocaust, right? Like, that was such a big part of the American ethos is, the Holocaust or whatever, too. So, yeah, and on that, and then also I realized it's kind of interesting, kind of shows how things get manipulated or whatever. I ended up, since actually the first episode, this would be episode 5 now, I believe. So it's been a solid month. And it was actually, from the get-go, we had been talking about how the theme was demons. And, this whole concept of our demons causing ourselves and our loved ones to do some of these things that don't make a lot of sense to us, And apparently that all actually was originally spurred on by the Pope. So just goes to show how even the things we talk about, are manipulated. And it's interesting topic. It all kind of goes together with a lot of things right now. So interesting synchronicity, I thought. House is nice and cool. Got up to 82 out here today, so it's been pretty warm. And also, like I said, I'm not feeling well, so that got me pretty warm too. So, let's see. Again, I haven't been feeling well. I had some thoughts for this week, but I'm not as organized as I should be. And I need to go kind of from the getting comfortable phase to organizing this better, planning it better. And we'll have like an intro and a little, something I'll say like the beginning of every show or something like that. So, yeah, just to stay on topic again, a lot of things going on this week. And, man, that's going to be really a pain in the rear skis. Let's see if we can move over this way. Get a little bit out of that. Wonder if we could even move. What would this look like? That'd be fine for now, I think. So, yeah, I could even do a sit in the back room. Let's do that. We'll do a sit in the back room one, you know? That works better. I was just over at the goats trimming hooves, Gemma. Yeah, I'm doing my live now. I did not get potting soil, but like I said, we have plenty of soil over at the church that I've actually been making compost for several years now, so we have really good soil to fill up. We're going to do a bunch of planters over there in the back. It's probably where I'm going to start the asparagus project. Yeah, so what were we going to talk about? To stay on topic. Again, they're trying to distract. You know, the Democrats are trying to distract again. And we just need to stay focused. I see that online their attack right now is to kind of mock the idea of us wanting the flag back, right? Like they've got all their bots and their little people out there mocking that. And of course, you know, if you don't see any value of it in it because you're some Johnny-come-lately that just showed up here and you want to show up here with the attitude that you're entitled to everything and you know, you're basically, hey, I showed up here so it's mine, which in all fairness to them, they kind of preach that to those people, you know, like yeah, you could be an American, etc., but they kind of almost teach a lack of gratitude toward them, like somehow, you know, the whole world has a right to everything that we have in the Western world, and especially America, because, you know, nobody's illegal on stolen land and this whole narrative. So again, they were out there talking about the wealth tax, you know, the equity tax and all that this week. And you know, we got to talk about, too, like kind of concrete things that the state could do. Now, the state could do certain things. For instance, in the state, I would think we could pass some kind of law saying that you don't get residency until you've lived here for 10 years or something like that, or unless you've been, you know, lived here 10 out of your first 18 years, you know, et cetera, some kind of way of establishing some kind of deal there. Complete ban on, you know, things like welfare and whatnot for anybody that's, you know, that's a part of the residency thing. You know, it should be, we should make it difficult to get residency unless you're born and raised here, multi-generational, and there should be a different tax structure for residents compared to non-residents, just like there's a different fee structure for fishing and hunting and things like that. Access to our entire society should come with a fee, and other policies to help discourage. Again, we need to push the idea of peacefully resettling all the refugees back where they came from, that each one should get a full shipping container per individual, including minors and adults. You know, so if they have a family of 6, they get 6. You know, does that seem extravagant? Yes. But, you know, we should go out of our way to be extra nice and make it extra painless, you know, especially since, you know, in all fairness to them, they were brought here under certain pretenses, which I would call obviously false pretenses, and I would by outside invaders. Really, that's what Tim Walz and Ellison, Omar, all these different Democrats that have come here from all over the country. They're clearly all a part of, basically what I would call some kind of Democratic caucus. I'm all covered with goat hair and stuff from Daisy. I would call it some kind of Democratic caucus that they're a part of. That's maybe a nationwide Democratic organization that's trying to infiltrate and take over in certain areas ahead of the breakup into regions. I don't think it's a coincidence that we are supposed to be, our capital is supposed to be Chicago, that's Obama's headquarters, and that he built that big crazy cement, imperial fortress building there to run his capital out of. And we have to really, here's the point. We have to get serious about the narrative. You got to understand that it's not just a narrative, right? It's reality. Like, the reason I talk about the narrative is because what they do is they make the narrative sound kind of like innocent and almost like good or something like that, when the real narrative is that we are being literally invaded and robbed. We're being robbed and invaded. So we had a tax level that led to an $18 billion surplus. They since raised the taxes $10 billion and blew the entire surplus. So why couldn't we return? The Republicans have come out with a good plan. It does include a tax cut and some things too. $30 tabs across the board and a massive tax cut's important, but not $3.8 billion. $3.8 billion is not even half of the $10 billion they raised the taxes. So see how they switched the narrative there? We got to an $18 billion surplus before they raised the taxes $10 billion. Right? So we don't need to raise taxes. We need to cut the entire $10 billion. First and foremost, it was never needed. Never needed to raise it because we got to a surplus without it. Right? The problem wasn't the taxes. Right? The state wasn't falling apart and everybody wasn't dying and starving before the taxes. We had an $18 billion surplus and all our needs were met. So we can return to that level of taxes, We participate in an RV park down in a northern suburb of the cities. And they had an individual at the county who retired, and a new guy takes over. And then all he does is simply reclassify the property in some way. He says, oh, it's not classified right, it should be this way instead. Been the same way forever, and he just changes it, and the next thing you know, our taxes go up $300 per member for the property in one thing. But they had just enough taxes before that, so there's just more taxes. They're just taking all these taxes. I actually looked at the government service pay scale just last week because it came up with somebody that I work with, and it's not an excessive or good. They have really high benefits, pension and health care, and that's a big portion of their cost too. Much better benefits than other people tend to have, but their pay scale is not impressive. It's not impressive. So where are all the taxes going? They talk about the high taxes in Europe, but in Europe you see what you get for your taxes. You pay all those taxes, all the roads are properly maintained. Though apparently in Germany things are really tanking right now because they took in all those refugees and stuff like that, and I'm sure some other things. I don't know. I don't stay too much up on it, and I haven't lived there in 20 years, so things change obviously. But anyway, the point is, you pay all the taxes, you should see what you're getting for the taxes. And what we've come to realize is what we're getting for the taxes, a whole bunch of people are getting the money. Like just massive numbers of people that are on the take, or what they call living on the dole. I've discussed this in posts before. Whether or not people take the time to read a long, detailed post is different than a video, though. So, you can't have an enormous amount of people living off the dole. You're always going to have some people living off the dole. That's what it's called, living off the dole, right? But you can't have too many people living off the dole. And that's what we have going on right now. And they've imported all these people. So if you look, the thing is, the reason I'm pushing the narrative is, this is really, really serious. So if we don't do something about it, shouldn't be like, oh, Republicans are trying to get elected right now. Like I said, it's not even really about voting Republican as much as it's definitely about not voting Democrat this time around. On the state level, you cannot vote for Democrat on the state level because of what's happened. But those people have to be removed. Like, we have to stop this. We have to stop it, and we have to acknowledge that it's not just a narrative, that what is literally happening here is that an organized effort by actual Marxist communists are intentionally bringing in massive population of other people to be subsidized and paid for by us. In other words, they're robbing us for us to pay for a political mercenary force that they're bringing here to vote and to secure their power, to rob us and to take us over. And they're coming after all our property rights. Everything that we want, they want to regulate. They're regulating and taxing everything. Everything. Okay? I know I talk about Germany, but also, there's not everything over there is peachy keen. There's a dog tax. Now they're going to, apparently they want to start a cat tax. There's a TV tax. There's an everything tax. And good, they see what they get for it, but there's an everything tax. And also, to be quite honest, I don't know who's paying all those taxes, because the working people and the working poor, or whatever you want to call them, are not paying the taxes there. Like we are here. Here they're robbing the poor to pay the poorer. Right? I'm like working poor, and I'm in a trade and at a level where in a previous generation, like if I was a boomer, I would be the upper level of blue-collar earners. And instead, I have to fight tooth and nail just to make enough money to get by. So it's crazy level. It's crazy level the change in our standard of living. And again, that's not one person working. Like a person in my job and in my trade 30 years ago, a man just working in this trade could easily take care of everything, and his wife might not even work, or part-time or something. No, we both work full-time, and my wife has worked full-time in manufacturing for over 12 years now, I think. Over 12 years now. So, and she helped out working part-time and doing stuff before that, too. She always helped out. So just the economic difference is so overwhelming. And now they want to raise taxes more. So it's not really a joke anymore. I mean, you see these things they're doing in the city. They did all that. They 100% waltz and fraying these people, instigated all that stuff against ICE and made that whole big thing up. And now they're talking about they need to get paid for it on top of it. So people here in rural Minnesota that are trying to get by or whatever, we're now people in the city also get to get extra pay because ICE was there. Like, it's insult to injury. They're totally out of control, and they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. They're not going to slow down. I know you look at him. You look at some. Like I said, he's like just a turd loaf. Turd loaf, I think, is what I call him. Somebody like Waltz. You look at that turd loaf and you just don't take him seriously. But you've got to take him seriously. This person is deadly, deadly serious. These people, he's not going away either. You see this small town pack. These people are trying to take over, to steal, and it's some kind of, I don't want to get it into the esoteric or whatever, but it's some kind of spirit that comes over them. Just like, it looks like some kind of spirit has come over Trump, right? Something happens, and yeah, is it this demon possession like the Catholics talk about? I mean, I get where you could see that and you go like, whoa, what's going on? It's almost like, yeah, they're possessed by some kind of evil spirit or bad spirit, or something happens there, and that spirit begins to take on a life of its own. But these people are doubling down. They're robbing us blind. They absolutely cannot get reelected. None of them. I mean, none of them. Absolutely none of them. Not one Democrat should get reelected. They should be completely routed. And the regular, normal, DFL, Minnesota, traditional Democrat people, you guys need to take back over that party, because that's not your party anymore. That's not DFL. There's no DFL there. There's nothing democratic about it. They don't ask democratic anymore. They tell you. They're authoritarian with like some kind of gay agenda Nazism. It's wild double. We've got, and I know that's coming from, the Trump side, but it's two wings of the same bird. We've got this Jewish supremacy being institutionalized in the legal system, talking about anti-Semitism laws and all this stuff. That's all that is Jewish supremacy, which is not good for the Jews, by the way. It's not going to affect us. We're beasts. We're going to win. We always win. It's just, what do you want? You know what I mean? What do you want? So, it's not even about, you people should understand from our side, our perspective, it's not about winning and losing. It's about feeling bad about what it's going to take to just, take care of you people. And just clean it out, And nobody wants to deal with that, especially not, on the home front and everything. So, people need to get real about it, look at what's actually happening, and understand that the narrative is true. This is not just a narrative, okay? They imported hundreds of thousands, there, even in the one community alone, the Somali community, it's supposed to be 110,000 people. They imported them, they subsidized them while stealing from us. They took all our money from us, gave them money, subsidized them, brought them here by the hundreds of thousands, increasing all of our living expenses, housing expenses, all this other stuff, supposedly in the name of the, because the boomers need slaves. I mean, that's the other thing. As a collective, those of us who are Gen X and below, it's time to tell the boomers to sit down and shut the F up. Right? This is us that it's going to get affected. It's you guys. It's you younger than me. Way younger than me. It's my grandkids. They're really the ones that are getting it. We got it, but they're really going to get it. All you have to do is look at that incident where that girl got stabbed on the bus. People even walked around her like this, clutching their pearls and stuff like that. I don't know how you can watch that and not understand what's going to happen when not your pathetic boomer ass, right? But your grandkids, your great grandkids are minorities in the land that my great grandfathers settled, grandparents settled, right? So when that happens and you think that we have some obligation to that, you think you're doing something moral, just, righteous, you're the good guy, I'm the bad guy, anybody who's against immigration is the bad guy. No, you guys are the bad guys. You're way beyond the bad guys. But we're beyond that point. It doesn't matter who's a good guy and a bad guy right now. We don't have to talk about Tim Waltz is a good guy or bad guy, Elon Omar, any of these people, okay? We're at the point now, okay, where the Bolsheviks are taking over. They're taking over. They're not building it up. They're not propagandizing. They're not. They're taking over right now. Right now. This area, Minnesota. You're being taken over by Bolsheviks who are robbing you blind. Intentionally. It's not an accident. You're not a racist for wondering what the hell's going on. Don't let anybody tell you that. You can't look around and you can tell and you can see, dang, what's going on? Dang, what's going on? Okay, you can all feel it. You know it. Don't let them tell you to ignore that. Don't let them tell you that that's bad. That is a gift from God to you and to all of us. Warning, warning, you know? Remember that Lost in Space? Warning, Will Robinson. Warning, warning. Or whatever it was. You know, so stay focused on the narrative. Don't forget you're not alone. Believe me, a lot of people. If I'm sitting up here even making videos about it and talking about it, right? You know things have gone off the rails. I'm not I'm an international man of mystery. So, you know, my wife was born Muslim. My wife is from Germany. She's Turkish from Germany. I have family and stuff like that, and friends and people that I've known of all different race, colors, and creeds. I like everybody. But that's not what this is about. And don't let anybody tell you that. And if those people tell you that, then they're not really your people, right? If you stand up and you got a group of people and you're like, hey, look what's happening here, and they're like, shut up. That's not your group of people. You know? When that girl gets stabbed on the bus and people clutch their purses, they walk around her dying. Okay? That's not your people. That's not your people. So, so I don't know what else to say, I guess. I'm not well prepared. I've had a hard time even waking up, let alone getting out of the house or thinking about anything this week. I literally couldn't even wake up. Couldn't get out of bed sometimes. So, yeah, what else did I want to talk about? I wonder if I can do this and look at it. I don't think I can. See if I could look at some other stuff while I was doing this. But I can't. That's why at least when we get set up in the church, and then I'll have an actual computer with the big screen TV set up and stuff, we'll have an actual like studio over there. Then maybe I'll be able to start like putting stuff up on a screen for us to talk about and stuff like that. Also, you know, you guys could throw some, I'm not getting a lot of comments or interaction yet. If you guys want to interact and put some comments up, if you got ideas for topics, shoot me a message. You know, post on any one of these feeds, things that you think about, things you'd like to talk about. Yeah. So, I have to also think about it more, because I got to think about how I'm going to fill this content and make it interesting. Just listening to me talking, looking at my ugly mug isn't interesting. So we only have so much to talk about when talking about trying to stay on the narrative. Should be a little something about the news every week. It's not a lot local going on that I can really report on. I don't know. I don't know if I discussed it in the other episode, but our last county commission meeting up here, you know, these idiots took it as their opportunity to grandstand and sit there and talk about, oh, my grandma was afraid of ice or something like that. And it's just so contrived and stupid. Oh, man. I don't know. So, maybe maybe you guys could add. Maybe people have ideas of. Yeah, there really is no idea. There's really nothing. I mean, it's just so absurd at this point. We're just listening to the absurdity of Marxists and communists and liars spew garbage narratives about stupid stuff. But keep in mind that, these commie Karens are a flock of commie Karens flying around the state, crapping on the whole state. You saw, of course, that Kaholi hair. I did a short about that earlier in the week. Comparing the ICE raids to fleeing the communists. I mean, these people have no shame. They have no shame, and it's so pathetic. And who listens to that? So I don't know what that's what I mean by it's kind of beyond the point of good, bad, debate, whatever. I mean, what do you even do with something that's stupid and retarded? Talking like that, getting up in front of these people who are clearly somehow organized, getting up in the Crow Wing County meeting and talking about my grandma in Crow Wing County who came here as the wife of a veteran, is worried about ICE coming after illegal aliens. Comparing her mother, who is the wife of a veteran, to illegal aliens and refugees. What are you talking about? How do you so I don't know what you even do with what do you do with that? I mean, really at this point we're going to have a weekly meeting here to just kind of encourage each other to stay focused and get the message out there, and then see what happens in November. So hopefully that these Democrats get just completely removed from office. If that's not going to happen, if they're going to cheat again, they're probably going to cheat again. But even if they don't cheat, think about what's happening, right? So you bring in hundreds of thousands of people into a relatively small geographic area in the state, like in the city, or they got a couple of enclaves of support, and it's not all people brought here. There is some, I'm sure, some kind of Democrat. I don't even know what the Democrat power base, say, in Duluth is. Are these the mining families? Are these the old school families? I don't know. Why have they decided to sell us out and completely betray us? I mean, at this point, it doesn't really matter, right? I know I talk about Minnesota born and raised families, settler families, but if these settler families have decided to flood the state with these people in order to keep some kind of political control so that they don't have to contribute anymore, they can just live off the dole, and they think that they've done enough and they get to live off it because of nepotism or whatever else. They think there's some neo-feudalist force. These are traitors. When there's Marxist revolutions in these other countries, those Marxists were people who were from those countries, right? That got together and started stealing from everybody else. Decided they had a right to steal and to kill and to take power. And we've talked about that before. Nobody likes the royals, but if you want your property rights, they have to have their property rights. If you look at the difference between, what's the difference between China, Russia, Iran, some of these other countries, and then the Western countries? It's these other countries killed their royals, and they took all their stuff, including the Ottomans, by the way, the Turks. Though they have now let their royals back into the country, they haven't given them back any of their property or anything like that. So I'm sure that's part of why, they still have that conflict with Turkey, and why, even now with this thing going on, Israel making comments about Turkey and stuff like that. You know, and even in Iran, they want to bring back in the Shah or whoever royal they set up. You know, and it's like you talk about all these Gulf countries. Again, I reiterate a million times. You want to talk about Israel, Israel, Israel. All those countries were created by the crown. They didn't exist, and they don't exist. You go, well, why are they? Wonder why they're all, you know, willing to sit there and get attacked by Iran because that's what America wants and da 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 da. They don't have a choice. They exist because they were created there. You know, these people did not exist there. These were royal families that were created by the crown. That's who makes you royal. And they enforce that, you know, through deadly force. You know, so we've talked about that too. There has to be some kind of structure like that in the United States. It's very, very obvious, and it's most likely has something to do with the Masonic orders. You know, that's all been around forever and ever. You know, all this, you know, could be the 13 families, they say. And the people who are attached to those families. There's the Big Red Rock and the, you know, Murder Inc. and whoever's attached to that. That's mafia stuff. You have the regular mafia that's attached to the Catholic Church too. You know, you have these different power structures. Not sure if the Knights of Columbus are attached to the mafia. Maybe. And you've got that eternal struggle between the Masons and the Catholics and all that going on. So, all interesting stuff. But all that really matters for us is what's happening right here in Minnesota. What's going to happen during the restructuring, you know, which is going to just accelerate over the next 4 years into 2030. And as we discussed before, you know, even if you don't believe it, and I don't want to believe it either. Hopefully that's not even happening. I don't know if it's happening. I'm no inside man. You know what I mean? I don't know. So, but they say it's happening. They're the ones who say it. They're the ones who talk about it. Again, it's not like a conspiracy. They've built the structure. They have the FEMA system set up. They have the Met Council set up. They have all the legal structure built through the water rights and things like that, through the sewer system, the water system. And don't get me started, but you know, I've been digging into this stuff for 25, 30 years. So, but they've been saying they're doing it, and they've been doing it, and they've done it, and they've built the whole thing, and it's ready to go. And now they're playing out this crazy narrative. You know, and all these people look like characters on the TV. So, we just focus on building the homestead. You know, and that's been the theme now. We jumped on this bandwagon 10 years ago. Originally, if you guys remember, with Owen Benjamin, who's still at it, by the way, building Beartaria. And we're building our own little Beartaria. And that whole movement kind of came together. He actually, you know, that was actually coming together online before Owen Benjamin became a part of it. You know, there was different YouTubers. That was becoming kind of like a subculture on YouTube, is homesteaders doing videos and stuff, and even online in all the groups, the chat groups and stuff. Some of us would like talk about buying land in Canada and making our own town and everything, like a libertarian town. Kind of looked into it a little bit at one point. I remember this years ago now. Found like it's like 1,000 acres or something like that in Canada for 160 grand or something. You know, it was ridiculous. We could all go there and cut a road in there and make a town. So, you know, but we're on that mission, that Beartaria mission, on whatever level each of us are on in our own way. So that's what it's all about. Just doing the Lord's work. And being the solution, right? Being the solution. So, we're at a really scary point. If these people, you can see how they are. We're at that point where if they win again, I mean, they're going all the way. they're going all the way. And if they're going all the way, we're going all the way. So that's going to be a bummer. And so let's stay focused. Let's not make sure that you tell all your friends and family. People should be, really at this point, you should almost be shaming people if they still plan to vote Democrat. You know, it has to become kind of a shame thing. It really does. It doesn't mean you have to say, oh, I'm a flag-waving Republican. That's not everybody's style. I get it. But there's certainly, you know, the DFL types, the Democrat types here, the more liberal types here, that can still recognize and say, hey, you know, this the 60s hippies world can't exist in a third world shithole either. It can't. Can't tax everybody, imprison everybody, start stealing their property, steal their homes, send the sheriffs to have shootouts with them and all this kind of stuff. And the sheriffs are really the solution. I've been saying that for a while. The sheriffs are they're the last bastion of real constitutional power here in Minnesota. And that's a constitutional office. And the sheriffs have real power and real independence. And they can stand up and they can say no. And again, we have no obligation to take these people no matter what they tell you. We're not required to just just lay down and just be trampled. So have some self-respect. Don't let them mock the flag. The flag is really the flag, and that's why there are flags. But the flag is the issue. It's a symbol of the issue. The flag is the issue almost, right? We will know whether we're winning or losing based on what happens with that flag. That's the truth. Okay, so if you're a Republican, if you're a Republican leader, a Republican politician, if you're a Republican voter, if you're a Republican influencer, if you're a Republican anything, and you're not talking about that flag, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're not paying attention, you don't really understand what's happening, and you're not really in the fight. That flag, the reason they want to mock the idea of even dealing with that flag, and the reason they don't want to even hardly talk about it, is because the whole issue is wrapped up in that flag. And if they can just put a commission together like that, change that flag, a bunch of people who are not from here can just come in here, trick our people, bring in hundreds of thousands of foreigners into small geographic areas for their political power, take control of the state, completely loot the treasury, raise all our taxes up, and then raise a new flag over your land. It's over. It's over without a shot fired, without anything. Without anything. And your boomers are to blame. The boomers are to blame. You were handed it by the greatest generation, and you flushed it down the toilet. You flushed it down the toilet for your sins and your pride and your what do they call that? Your virtue signaling. Virtue signaling. Well, you're throwing your own children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren under the bus. So, that might be the biggest thing you could do. If you are Gen X and younger, shame your boomer relatives. I don't care. Aunts, uncles, mothers, fathers, grandmas, grandpas. Tell them not to vote. Don't vote. Stay home. The DFL, there's no DFL to vote for. There's no DFL to vote for. They're not democratic. they don't support farmers, you know dang well that the whole process in the Democratic Party is no longer democratic. That's a top-down, authoritarian, classist, communist, Marxist party selects its leaders thing that you got going on there. It's no more democratic. Period. Gone. Farmers, all they want to do is attack any kind of non-traditional farmer and go after the cows. They're trying to completely give away the cow industry. They've already done it with the pork, and now they're coming after the cows. Birds are a pretty big deal in Minnesota. It's got to be a lot of power behind the birds. Maybe thus far they haven't flipped those families. I don't know what the birds seem to be holding their own. But the dairy got their butt handed to them. The beef's going to get their butt handed to them. They're in the process of it right now. So, you know, you can't turn your party over to people who believe in cow farts. And then as far as labor is concerned, they're not labor anymore. They're the, what do they call it? The professional managerial class. So there's nothing DFL about the Democrats anymore. Those are woke, liberal, they call that the professional managerial class. Useless. The useless eaters. They're just the middle people who get paid because they got a degree and joined a fraternity. So they come from the right family, whatever. So they get paid. It's like a new feudal lord class. Like if we were in England, you know, you have the royalty, and then you have like the lords. They're part of the royals, but there's like lords, and then there's whatever under. I don't claim to know all their crap, but that's what they essentially are. So there's this professional managerial class that essentially does nothing but live off the rest, and that's your Democrat Party. So there's no Democrat, there's no farm, and there's no labor. So what are you voting for? What are you voting for? You're voting for coastal wokies, professional managerial class, and your Silicon Valley, and your, deep state. Your, again, professional managerial class in the government. Your bureaucrats. So the Democrat Party, there's no DFL. It's woke coasties, professional managerial, government, and Silicon Valley, technical or whatever. That's not DFL. That's not DFL. And you might say, well, we're not Republicans, but the Republican is pretty much been taken over by the working class people now. And you guys could all come over here and join the Republican Party and vote Republican. You could start next time caucusing with the Republicans, come into our BPOUs, meetings, get involved. If you're the old school DFLers would pretty much fit in the Republican Party now. Again, I'm not pushing you to be Republican, but if you're already if you're a Republican viewer, try to recruit those Democrats. Let them know, those DFLers, that hey, actually your home's over here now, just like the Hmongs. Just like the Hmongs. There's no reason for any Hmong to be voting Democrat. There's no reason for Coholy Hair to be sitting up there spewing Marxist garbage. The Hmongs that came here were commie killers. They're opposed to communism. Why is she coming over here and using Marxist politics and siding with the Marxist infiltrators? So, Hmong community, you need to get a hold of her and get her brain right, or replace her, or get rid of her. So does the Hmong community now, do you want to be identified with, I mean, there's no nice way to say it. Do you want to be identified with the lowest common denominator now? You want to be in that, like, poor me, minority, George Floyd, idolize the criminal, idolize Marxism, communism, racism, everything's all about, against the white guy. Has that ever been your shtick? I mean, I don't know if you care about, whether or not white people respect you or all or anything, but, the Asians have been mostly respected by white people here because you're not dirt turds. So now you want to be dirt turds instead? You want to join the dirt turds? They're dirt turds. I don't know how they got all this power and people started voting for them, but they're dirt turds. And people are going to wake up to that. And then you're going to be, you're going to be associated with them. Is that what you want? I mean, I don't think so. All the Hmongs I know like to work manufacturing. They're pro-family. They like farming. They like hunting and fishing. I know a lot of you aren't into like ATVs and stuff like that, but you could be. I could see it happening. Like in another generation, you guys could be all about it, So, fishing, boats. I mean, you guys are, I don't know, you're basically Republicans anyway. Guess a lot of you aren't in the military. You don't have a lot of military service. More of you should go in the army too. So, But this being a Democrat thing is not going to work out for you guys. I'm just telling you. You're siding with the wrong side. They don't like you. They're not going to like you. As far as they're concerned, you're worse than the whites. They don't like you because you are successful in school and business and stuff like that. You break the narrative. It's all the oppressive white people's fault. That's the bandwagon you guys want to get on. Well, you've been here crushing for years now, and now you're going to get on the poor me bandwagon with a bunch of fat white chicks and a bunch of lazy, I don't know, whatever, dude. Come on. So, I don't know. You guys should think about that. And as I said, somebody should be talking to the Hmong community. You already. I know there's that company down in St. Paul, Temco. You could have get people. I think you already have a couple tool makers over there. You can get some tool makers in there. Get some people in the management. I don't know how Temco is politically aligned, but I'm just saying. As far as any Republican power structures is in the state, a lot of these manufacturing people, those are all Democrats too. Democrats with slaveholder mentality, by the way. They might all be little effeminate, weird little, Waltzes and his wife or whatever. But believe me, they're looking down on you. They're looking down on me, and they're looking past me down on you. You know what I mean? So, a lot of, people would assume that the Asians are smarter than that. You should feel embarrassed to be used by the Democrats. They just use you. That's all they're doing. Using you. What do they give you? What do they do for you? So, anyway. So that was pretty unstructured. Kind of, and a day late. So, but that's our live at 5 for today. I hope you enjoyed the farm update. Couple of reels I posted from the farm with the goats. Love those goats, man. They really, they're like medicine for the soul. So, and the chickens, love to see how they got it all set up over there. It's looking great. It was cool to listen to the racetrack, huh? Did you guys hear the cars just in the background? So they got the dirt track up there. It's pretty cool. So, maybe at some point we'll almost have like a little pit garage there, something. I don't know. We'll see. Could be really fun and really cool. So, all right. Well, have a great week. I'll keep doing some of the little shorts during the week. do some of the rants and some of the positive stuff, I suppose. I like the animal stuff. So, the other thing I wanted to talk about, just as I suppose I'll use my my airtime to do a little plug. I am returning full-time to roofing and remodeling, as much as my broken, disabled butt can do. So, I'm going to be the best deal you got going. But I'm an old man. I pretty much work by myself. Maybe I'll have a couple of younger dudes that can help me out. But I do about a roof a week by myself. That's what I've done for many, many years. Your average family-sized roof, 20-25 square, tear-off relay, everything. So let me know if you know anybody that needs a roof, needs a good deal. And the season goes quick. I'll be able to, like I said, to schedule about a roof a week. And we'll see if we can stay busy. All right, so have a great week. Stay focused. Mission for the week. If you're Republican, try to let some Democrat, DFLer that you know, just try to talk to them about how they'd fit better in the Republican Party this week. What else? Just stay on narrative. And, that's about it, I guess. Just that. Just stay on narrative. Try to take the opportunity sometimes this week to talk to a Democrat about either not voting or joining the Republicans. And we'll see you next week. Hopefully on time this time, next Tuesday, live at 5 for Norseman News. Take care.